So, Marcus, perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself to the viewers of Positive TV. Tell us why you're here in the UK.
To make a ripple effect, to stir up some waves, to stir up some thinking which is different. My main focus is healing cancer, and that means healing yourself, and through that, heal the world by becoming conscious, by realizing what possibilities we have to heal, by leaving away all the toxins, by leaving away all those things which make us sick, and especially our children.
It's a very, very big subject, but where would you start with kind of like, the top toxic substances and that bring about cancer, do you think?
Well, it always is diet. Unfortunately, the things that we got used to, all the rancid fats, if you have anything which is deep fried, you consume carcinogens. If your meat is burned, barbecued and really burned, you consume carcinogens. If you buy anything in the food alleys which is pre-packed, pre-cooked, ready-made, cereals are carcinogenic. And if you start learning about that, and that's what we covered in the book, 160 pages, and I tell you what, it's not 160 boring pages, it's 100 chapters in those 160 pages, which means we just touched the main problems in those products, which means diet is #1 problem. It causes deficiencies, it causes inflammations, it causes diseases, it has carcinogens. You know that some cereals you couldn't put a magnet underneath the plate and move it around, so much lead is in it. That's something we eat, which is an estrogen dominant carcinogen. It produces neurotoxins, all sorts of things, like we've been sold into a sick industry and we enjoy being part of it, and that's the wrong part, and that's the ripple effects that I'd like to create.
So how do you feel about sugar?
Oh, well, you don't want to eat sugar. Sugar is unhealthy, sugar is deadly, and if you have the unhealthy forms of sugar, which means the processed sugar like corn syrup and all that is in every finished product that you buy, well, you can guarantee to die a very, very painful death. And that was, for me, the big awakening. See, I'm not slim, and I was certainly not born healthy. I had to go through that learning curve, running into a heart attack, being heavily overweight, having diabetes, all of those things, until you hit the brick wall and you get the diagnosis. And then you think, oh shit, they told me long time before that this causes diseases, but you don't want to hear. But when you hit the brick wall and you get the diagnosis, all of a sudden it's like, well, either I die or I change. And unfortunately, most of our population needs to hit that brick wall, like I did, like most of us do, before we turn around. And that's why I really urge everybody to listen to that inspiration, to listen to, someone who had the experience and says, you don't need to go through that pain.
How about stress?
Stress is healthy if it moves you forward. If you love what you do and you have action in your life and you're stressed to achieve something, that's actually healthy stress. It promotes. But if you have self-minimized stress, you're not good enough, you're bullied, your wife tells you what to do, your husband domineers you, your parents tell you what to do, you feel not worthy, that's unhealthy stress. And the longer you keep that, the longer you let them dominate you, domineer you, and you don't say, stop now, it's enough, the more cortisol is produced in your body, the more degenerative diseases you get, the more you start compensating with sugar foods and all unhealthy habits, your mind shuts down the healing process, and it's a certain guarantee that you get cancer.
How about a quick take on the medical profession and cancer?
You want me to talk about conspiracy, or you want me to talk about death by medicine, or that the highest rate of death is produced by properly prescribed medical drugs in America and Germany? I don't know about England, but I think they are not very far off.
Let's get on to something a bit more upbeat then. What do you think? What are we going to do? What's the way out?
When you make a mistake, you touch a hot plate, what do you learn from that? Not to do it again. Now, we have reached a critical momentum. We have reached now 1 in 3 people to be diagnosed with cancer, which means you can guarantee that everybody has in their family or in their relationship or in their friendship or anybody around has someone with cancer, which means the critical momentum says, well, there is some reason. 1 in 8,000, you don't know about it, you don't realize it, but 1 in 3 is that momentum where we can say, hey, we need to change something. And if our new life expectancy of our children that we produce now is less than ours, well, that shows we've gone off track. With 80,000 chemicals shot out into the universe and into our environment, and we have diseases which we cannot prevent anymore, which really means ongoing detoxification just to get rid of what's in the air. We've learned something, and I think that's why there is movements all around the world. We have really movements starting from the movie, from the book, from everything, all around the world, and they start to change themselves, and through that heal the world. If you stop buying junk, if you don't stop buying plastics, if you stop drinking out of plastic bottles, if you don't use toxic materials, then you can guarantee that that will have an influence on your children. It will have an influence on their friends. People will start to think about it and know about it. If you're outspoken and you're not shy and you say, stop using sun cream and stop using that shit. And that's what I do when I go to a supermarket. I tell everybody. My children don't like to go with me, but that's how you can change the world. And I think that's the moment we've reached. And you see that with huge movements happening all around the world.
One last question.
Yeah.
Plug your website, plug your book, plug your video. Where do we find this information?
Cancer is Curable Now.tv, like watching TV. And that's where you find everything. You subscribe to our newsletter, weekly, one newsletter, and that has tons of information and inspirational things like groups where you can join. And that's where you can get the movie, that's where you can get the book, that's where you can get the membership, where you can join everything, and where you can become a part of our common sense community. And I think that's the biggest word to stress. Common sense. We do not sell, we do not promote products, we don't do anything except teach common sense.
Thank you for talking to Positive TV.
Thank you.